This is part 3 on the 35 horse Sears tractor. I just wanted to say before I actually get into the video that things didn't really go as planned, but I do get it running and driving, and I'll talk about what exactly happened to the four-wheel drive later on in the video, but enjoy the video. So, not much has been done since the last time, but something I did do is, of course, I got the engine just sitting on it, and I got the coupler figured out for the hydraulic pump. This is not the same hydraulic pump that I had before. The one I had before that I was showing you is this one. And I was explaining towards the end of the last video on trying to figure out a coupler that's like this one. And I never could figure that out. So I have another pump, which is that one, off of the second reel mower. It turns out you can actually take the pumps apart because that had 5 different pumps in one, if that makes sense. So here's 3 that I took out. So I just took the back plate off and left the 2 front ones, the big one for the drive system and then a smaller one for the power steering. I took that off so I don't need those 3. And then I made a coupler, which is in this picture, for the 1 1/8 shaft, because the coupler that it had, which is this one, is just a 1-inch. So I basically remade this piece. So the next thing I got to do is basically mount the engine. So these 2 holes here, or just pick one. I'm going to pick the back ones. Those I can drill directly down into the frame and mount that. The front here, it's pretty much directly right there. Not going to happen for a bolt, even if I welded a flange on the edge, because of the thickness of the metal. It's not going to line up to even come close to get a bolt there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plasma cutter and I'm going to cut a little U shape right here. I'm going to bend that out, kind of like an SS16 frame with that. Kind of like that. I'm going to do that on each side. So then that way it'll line up and I can get the bolts in there pretty easy. Otherwise, this engine actually fits better than I expected. There'll be plenty of room up front for the mounting for some type of a hood. And then, of course, the hood will have to be stretched the same amount that I did the frame. And then it's going to need a custom-made dash because none of this here is going to fit any ordinary Sears dash. So I'm going to get these engine mounts done, and I'm going to come back and show you that. Okay, so I got quite a bit of stuff done since I showed you last, as you can see. So I did get the engine put in. I got the holes made. The only difference to the plan than what I was showing you is that I had to make these long and skinny little metal brackets. It's like a washer, but weird shaped. Because I went to bend the piece of metal out on the top here, and it just broke. So it just bolts, goes through the hole in the piece of metal, and just goes straight into the frame. Which you can see it just kind of hanging in there. And then it's the identical thing on this side. You can see same thing here. And then the back is actually bolted directly to the frame, like what you're supposed to do on to mount an engine. So, which, I mean, it's not the greatest engine mount, but I mean, it ain't like it's actually having force, you know, on the frame, because it's actually just bolted to this pump. So it's not, it just basically keeps it from falling off. Got an oil filter mounted for the, basically just for the power steering return. So how this works is we got the tank here, or the reservoir. The pump's gonna suck it from there, and then it gets divided up between the 2 pumps. The power steering either goes straight down from here, and then it loops around and goes to the power steering box right at the tip of my finger there. And then it returns from that, goes to this filters it, and then it loops around here, then goes back in the return, which I right now just have electrical taped because that's all I had to get it to stay in there. And then if it's the hydraulic for the actual drive system, it comes through this connection here because that's all I had laying around, so that's just temporary. Loops around this hydraulic hose, goes in the side of the valve. And then this is the part I still got to buy, is the piece to go from here to here, which I have. This part, I just need a I need to go from this to this, like a little reducer pipe. But what my plan is now is the muffler, which is not going to be an easy task. So since that hole is so huge for the exhaust, it's going to need quite the flange, which this one here just about fits. I just got to widen the 2 holes, and then I think this will work. The only deal is that this is not gonna, it's a little bit longer than I wanted. So I might have to shorten this up if I can get the pipes apart. Otherwise, I traced out on a piece of paper a new flange, which looks a little goofy, but it should work. So I can cut that out with a plasma cutter. But so I'm gonna get these mufflers done, and I'm gonna get that piece there and get it just about ready for a test drive, and I'll come back. Okay, so last thing I was talking about was the mufflers. So I got those made. I'm not really happy with them, but I don't know what else to do. I'll show you on this side where you can see a little bit better. But I mean, I'm not really happy with them, but I didn't know what else to do, so that's what I did. The welds aren't the greatest, but it's just to basically hold the muffler on, and it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. So as you can see, it's outside instead of inside. It is chained to the front of my loader tractor. I've got a camera on a tripod over there. And then I got hydraulic oil in the tank. Not a lot, just some. I mean, quite a bit, like 1.5 gallons. It's not even on the dipstick, which is pretty funny. But I want to make sure that it's actually going to work before putting a lot of oil in there. I can't even get this back on. I got gas in this testing fuel tank, which is just ratchet strapped to the hydraulic tank. Got the duct tape off of the air inlet on the engine. I've got some sketchy stuff going on for electrical. This wire here, which turns the solenoid or clicks the solenoid. This battery cable here going to the positive. Negative cable just clamped on the frame, which means first test run. Okay, so you just saw it trying to drive, I guess. So I had to switch the 2 hydraulic lines in the front because the front wheels were going backwards and the back tires were trying to go forward, so it wasn't actually moving. It was trying to go 2 different directions at the same time. The steering was backwards, and I had these 4 hoses here backwards, so if you move the lever backwards, it was going forward. So basically everything that could possibly be hooked backwards was backwards. Anyway, so I fixed all that. I did record that part of the video, but I decided to just scrap it because I'm going to be just talking about it some more anyway, so whatever. But 4-wheel drive on this is basically worthless. I don't know how else to say it. You can go up a hill. It's because the back tires are bigger than the front ones. You can go up a hill, and all it does is just spin the front tires because bigger tires will go faster, but it takes more power to turn them, if that makes any sense. So being that the front tires are smaller, it goes slower, but it takes less power to turn it. And the back ones are hooked directly to the front ones, and it's going to favor whatever tire has the least amount of friction to turn. So what's happening is currently it goes about 1 mile an hour, which is worthless. I could add another pump to the system here, which currently has 2 pumps on there, one for the power steering and one for the drive. I can just take another block off of this, which is the rest of the pump, and just add another pump to it. But that's not really what I want to do, and if I did that, I'd have to tee it together, and it's only going to go double the speed that it does, which is a whole 2 miles an hour instead of 1. So I have to keep teeing pumps together. It's not going to work. So what I came up with is try to figure out where I put them. They're over here. I have these 4 plugs, and I know you guys are going to hate me for this. So this ain't going to be four-wheel drive. So I'm going to get these plugs here, since I have 4 of them. They're going to go right into these T's right here, right on basically these 2 lines, plugging the T. This front axle comes off with the roller motors. And the front axle that was on here is what's going to go back on. I can readjust this hydraulic cylinder because this is just clamped to the frame, so that can just get moved. I'm going to adjust that so that is in a better, position to operate the front axle. So with the magic of video editing, I'm going to come back and this will be 2-wheel drive and actually works how it should.